All right, what's up, everybody? How's it going? Thank you all for tuning back into another episode. I appreciate you coming by. I hope you find something enjoyable or interesting or whatnot out of this conversation. Yeah, with every, especially with all the Jmoe journals going forward, please feel free to interact in the comment section or any ideas, message me on Instagram, anything like that. If you want to kind of get involved in the conversation. Um, yeah, I feel like a lot of my podcasts unintentionally seem to be kind of one-sided, as if it's just a conversation and the audience is supposed to just kind of listen and absorb the information or whatever. But I don't want it to be like that personally. I'd prefer more of an interactive, meaningful engagement with the audience in particular. So feel free to always express ideas, whether it's contrary to what I believe or anything like that. I don't take things too personal, to be honest with you. So if anything I ever say, you're like, oh, that's stupid, I disagree, feel free to express your ideas with me. With that being said, let's get into it. Here we go. Start off with a quote here. Take the initiative. Don't wait around for other people to be happy for you. Any happiness you get, you've got to make yourself. Alice Walker. Interesting. Sweet. Straight to the point. That's powerful. It's very powerful. I'm a big proponent of that way of thinking, personally. Yeah, I've probably said it a handful of times in the last probably 6 months of episodes. But absolutely, man, if you're around me all the time, I consistently say it, it's you versus you type of thing, yeah, if you see my TikTok page or anything like that, where I just post the videos and shit like that, I kind of say the similar thing. I kind of live by that motto for myself. I couldn't agree with that more. It's good to have external support and gratification and, reward systems or whatnot, but it all stems from yourself, and that can be interchangeable with anything, yeah, it's good to accomplish it. It's real good when people acknowledge that you do good things, but no one's there with you 24 hours a day, it's simply how it is, Self-love, self-importance, self-recognition of successes and failures are utterly crucial in the development of any organism, any of them. Any intelligent organism needs these to strive and adapt. If you fail 100 times, guess what? You found 100 ways to not do it right. That's progress. You can look at it as, oh, I fucked up, I didn't do it right, or I learned how to not do it so I can better adapt to the next situation. That's what it's all about. You got to be real bluntly honest with yourself. I'm not telling you to take some crazy, narcissistic approach either, where you're like obsessed with yourself and it's strictly you. Nah, that can be teetering the line of, insanity kind of. But it's absolutely crucial for you to recognize when you do things well or not and be brutally honest with yourself. Absolutely. I just want to look at this one more time. I'm actually going to read it one more time. I hope you guys don't mind because I really like this. Don't wait around for other people to be happy for you. Any happiness you get, you've got to make yourself. I mean, man, that's so powerful, man. It's like, yeah, if you spend your whole life just waiting for gratification for other people, for your successes, you're going to live a miserable existence, man. You really just got, it's good to have that shit. Don't get me wrong. Like when, if someone compliments you, be thankful, be grateful that someone appreciated, what the work you've been putting in. That's great. But you have to, at a fundamental place, understand that they don't know the extent of what it took to capture what you got. You lost 100 pounds. Everyone's going to be like, oh, that's fucking awesome, man. You're looking great. But do they really know, or do they really, truly care to know every single incremental step that led up to where your progression led you? Listen, I'm not trying to shut people down, but the majority of the time, no. A lot of the time, people don't care enough. They just really don't. That's just how it is. I mean, if you sat there and laid out every single step day to day of what you did and how you didn't want to do some shit some days, but you did it, no one's going to give a shit for the most part. There's a handful of people that will. Most people in the everyday life, they don't really care. They recognize what you're doing and they say, wow, that's good. And that's the end of that. But they're not living with the gratification that you possess from accomplishing such things. When you learn a new skill, when you learn to play an instrument, when you graduate from school, when you do any of these crazy monumental steps, it doesn't even have to be something that crazy. It can be simply being in a depressive state and deciding to actually think optimistically that day, to wake up with gratification in your heart, with joy in your heart, with thankfulness in your heart, appreciation, brushing your teeth. It could be little fucking things too, but to other people, those little things don't mean shit. I mean, I brush my teeth every day, twice a day. No one cares. No one I work out. When I work out, there's no one telling me, hey, you gotta do this. We can't rely on external circumstances and forces to dictate our lives. We can't do that. Just as the same way we can't rely on external compliments to fuel us to keep going. They're great when they happen, but it's a temporary thing. The joy and pride and accomplishment you'll feel within yourself when you actually truly know what you went through to accomplish whatever the fuck you did, that is something that will stay with you forever. You don't have to be a Cameron Haynes. You don't have to be a David Goggins or a Tony Robbins. You don't have to be any of these great speakers or monumental motivational pillars for everybody. You don't have to be that. If you want to, do it. But just make sure if there's one thing you do it for, you do it for yourself first. You know, it's make sure you're your primary role model. You know, if you don't like how you do something right now, don't just neglect the fact that, you know, you're not doing it well. Recognize that, okay, what can I do to improve this? And then recognize that in the future, where you're gonna be. Use your future self and accomplishment of progression as your role model. Use that shit as a driving force to keep going, but also use it as an image to be like, damn, I want to be like that guy. I want to be like that girl. Because that's achievable. You know, when you see these people on social media or you read a book or something, sometimes you're like, oh man, it's how could I ever do that? Most of the time you can. You know, most shit's achievable if humans can do it. But I guarantee you it's achievable if you just compare yourself to yourself and the progression you will make. You know, make a vision board. Do affirmations. You know, meditate on these things. Speak into existence. Whatever your path of path of least resistance is for your own mind, just do it. Just drill those ideas into yourselves. Because there's nothing more beautiful than self-development, man. It's the cleanest act of love a human can possess for themselves. There's nothing better than progression when it comes to loving yourself. I mean, you can go around and intuitively eat all the time. You know, you can exercise. You can do whatever you want to do, but nothing is, you know, as capable and comparable as the act of simply recognizing how great you can be and great you actually are and seeing that progression. There's no better act of love to give to yourself than that, in my opinion. As always, everything I say on here is my opinion. Please don't take everything I say as fucking truth. Please, God, I'm the last person you should accept my rationales as truth for. I want you guys to all have your own opinions and form your own avenues of thinking, of course. I just like to throw mine out there, as everybody seems to do nowadays. But yeah, with that being said, that's the opening. Thank you. So see you guys later. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so this is going to be a strong pivot now, because the conversation I wanted to address in this episode. Oh, before I do that, yeah, got the mic arm, you know, got a filter on the mic now. I'm slowly making incremental steps to upgrade the setup here in the podcast recording area. So now I have 3 Blue Yetis, so that's good. All the same corresponding mics. I got the pop filters. That's cool. Got some headphones so we can, you know, I'm testing out for myself. But when I have other guests, you know, we can kind of make sure we're not talking over one another when we're in person and whatnot. It's going to make for a much fluid conversation and whatnot. Going to put the arms on all the mics as well. You know, just for whatever, you know, it's better than having them sit on the table and whatnot. I realized in the one I did with Doug about 3 weeks ago, the second half of the video turned out to have a little bit of interference due to the mics being not lined up. So that's part of the headphone reasons too, so we can hear in real time, make adjustments. Working on a camera situation too, because this camera is absolute dog shit. As you can see, it doesn't even register my hand. It's blurry. It's so yeah. I'm trying to decide whether I want to get like an actual video camera, or if I just want to get like, you know, like a 4K, you know, 30 or 60 FPS, you know, USB camera or something like that. So if anyone has suggestions on good quality, kind of affordable type of camera sets, please feel free to comment below. I'd be really appreciative of that, because I am absolutely retarded when it comes to that stuff. I mean, like, I have zero recognition of any like notable brands or features and whatnot. So, but I definitely like to progressively make this stuff better anytime I can. Um, Hell yeah! I just realized I said retard. I'm probably gonna get canceled for that. But if that's what brings me down, that's crazy because I said a lot of crazy shit on this podcast. But yeah, man. With that being said, let's get into it. So for the first time in 50 plus years this week, today's Wednesday night, so Tuesday night, I can check the actual date. So of course my phone's charging, so I can't pull up the date. On Tuesday, May 17th, there was a congressional hearing addressing the topic of UFOs, or as the government likes to call them now, UAPs, which I'll never actually refer to them as UAPs because that's ridiculous to me. Yeah, UAPs, I feel like it's one of the attempts for them to kind of get away from the stigma behind the UFO and alien kind of topic in general, which is ironic because they're the ones who have implemented the stigmatization around the whole subject. In every single account of the history of this country, we've kind of written it off, which is very ironic, again, because, we had Project Blue Book back in the days, that the Air Force's UFO investigation sector. That's a good place to start, I guess, to give a brief history on that. So yeah, basically around World War II, the U.S. Air Force had a sector of itself, a department, referred to as Project Blue Book, and it looked into unidentified aerial phenomenon. And I just did it right there. I used the UAP instead of the UFO. Jesus Christ, they got me. Holy shit. I just unconsciously referred to it as the freaking abbreviation I said I wasn't going to use. Man, that's crazy. See, they don't even need to put a Neuralink in my head to control me. They already got me, man. Jesus. Project Blue Book was used to discredit and disprove all UFO sightings, basically, that were being discussed around the country and whatnot. It's pretty interesting. The History Channel actually made a TV series about it, which is pretty funny. That's cool. A little story with that. My grandmother brought it up to me one day when I was talking to her. She was like, she knows I'm into aliens and shit like that. So she was like, hey, like, they got the show Project Blue Book, and it's like a government thing talking about aliens. And I was like, oh shit, let's get it. And so we started watching that religiously when it would drop, and that's a good little experience that I'll always keep with me going forward, because yeah, it's a simple act like that, man. Just getting excited to spend that time with her every week, and actively discussing the real events that correlated to what was going on in the show. We'd pause the show and discuss after the show. It was a good time. I'd recommend the show. It's like a dramatization. Obviously, it's more like what's the word? Fabricated probably than the logistical examples it was based upon. But all shows are dramatized and shit. But yeah, basically, Project Blue Book, yeah, it discredited a bunch of major UFO sightings, and that was basically it. One of the guys who was in charge of it, he wasn't actually, well, I don't know if he was in charge as much as he was a figurehead, kind of like a field investigator type of thing. He was a scientist named Dr. Alan J. Hynek, and Dr. Alan J. Hynek actually coined the term UFO, and he was he a physicist or an astronomer? Man, I should have researched that thoroughly before. I didn't actually plan on delving into Blue Book, but yeah, he was a professor at I believe Ohio University. Please don't take my word for any of the the examples behind Dr. Hynek. But we'll definitely look into Alan J. Hynek. But yeah, he was just a scientist that the government reached out to and asked to accompany them in the practice of disclosing UFO cases. It's very funny because he actively did kind of play his part for the majority of his time spent with Blue Book. Somewhere along the way, he started realizing there was a lot of cases that he couldn't chalk off to just nonsense and, like actual natural occurring things. So it made him kind of skeptical of like what was actually going on. And then post departure from the operation with the Air Force, he actually founded a major UFO research group. I'll leave the link to that group in the description of this video if you guys want to check that out. Sorry, I was getting a FaceTime. If you guys want to check that out, because it's pretty interesting. Another cool thing about Dr. Hynek is the movie Close Encounters by Steven Spielberg. Dr. Hynek actually makes a cameo in that movie. He's one of like the side, if you saw a picture of Hynek and then you saw the scene I'm talking about, you'd be like, oh shit, that's pretty cool. To my knowledge, I think he was working as a advisor for the certain sectors of the script of that movie, just to give some notability of how kind of credible this man was and stuff like that. This wasn't just some conspiracy kook that they found on the side of the road with a tinfoil hat. This was a very credited man who spent that many years slowly being convinced that UFOs were a legitimate phenomenon. So that's pretty interesting. It's also interesting to note that around this time is when Operation Paperclip happened, which was the post World War II, after Germany had lost the war. Many people aren't aware that there was an operation that the U.S. government, along with I think UN and United Nations and shit like that, even Russia, I believe, they basically just bidded upon taking thousands of scientists from Nazi Germany and bringing them into their own independent countries. It's very interesting. One man in particular that the U.S. received from Operation Paperclip after the war had ended. Before I go any further, all these men should have been trialed for war crimes against humanity, every single one of them. But instead, they were given U.S. U.S. tax dollar salaries. So that's something. Anyways, one of the men who was brought over in Paperclip was a man named Wernher von Braun. And Wernher von Braun was actually the creator of the V2 rocket, and he was a very high up scientist for the Nazis back in during the war. And Dr. Wernher von Braun actually became the first founder and head of NASA. So if you ever at a party, and you need an icebreaker, just be like, hey, Nazis founded NASA, and that's a good way to get your foot in the door. It just kind of shows, for me at least, that a lot of these pieces were kind of falling into place around the same time. A lot of weird shit. The government's actively looking into UFOs. Then we get the Roswell crash years later. Very sketchy, of course. I don't think I really need to get into Roswell here, but and then you've all that shit. You got Tim Walton back in the 70s. Betty and Barney Hill. A lot of weird, monumental. The battle over L.A. UFOs over over D.C. Like, there's a lot of notable examples of UFO related incidents and occurrences and operations that kind of correlate, that happen in that span of time. And obviously I'm kind of spanning that to 30, 40 years, but even if it's the present day. But this is just to show you that there's a strong lineage of things like this. What's important about the congressional hearings that just happened, in particular with the UFO topic in mind, is it was the first one in, I believe, in over 50 years, if not 60 years. I think the last one was in the 60s. I can actually pull up the exact date of when the last one was. Let's see. Yeah. It was the first public hearing of UFOs since 1966. So that's pretty interesting. To me, it makes me really think, it's like, under President Trump's campaign, whatever the fuck you want to call it, under his rule or whatever it is, not rule, because presidents really do shit, but, under his direction, I should say, we created a new branch of the military. We created the Space Force. I remember when it was first announced, a lot of my buddies were like, oh, we got a Space Force. Everyone was making a joke out of it. I mean, Netflix made a TV show about it with Steve Carell. Everyone was thinking it was a big joke. I instantly was like, guys, what are we doing? This is big. This is fucking big. They're actively recognizing the fact that they're going to weaponize space. That's what that is. That is industrialization and militarization of space. What else would it be for? It's an active branch of the military. It's not like it's a DOD or anything like that or an independent agency. No, this is an actual branch of the U.S. fucking military. I mean, what? Did we think that this wasn't going to have any ramifications for ongoing in the future with UFO-related discussions? Because I'll tell you right now, when I sat down and listened to the congressional hearing, I must have heard 15 to 25 times every single person talking on that panel actively talking about how UFOs are an active threat to national security. They were hammering that away. Do you know what that tells me personally? Again, this is my opinion. That tells me, without a shred of doubt, two things. One, they're actively preparing to engage in firefights of some kind with unknown beings in unknown crafts from unknown locations, which is probably the most ridiculous thing you could possibly do if we were being visited by extraterrestrial life. That is the absolute worst approach you could absolutely ever come up with, is to be on the offensive and attack these beings. Do you know how ridiculous that is? To even think that? Because here's the thing, they've been here forever. There's literally no shred of doubt that if we are recognizing the facts that UFOs exist, which the government does, I don't fuck with the government, I don't believe what they say, I independently believe it. But the fact that they're openly recognizing the fact that these beings and crafts exist in and itself is a turning point in the story of the UFO phenomenon. This is actively happening. So that's option number one. They're actively preparing to engage in war with them. Option two is it's a staged event. And I know what you're thinking. Okay, now he's getting crazy, but hear me out. Hear me out. The term false flag operation isn't a conspiratorial term. It's a very logistical, real thing. Like it has ties into concrete operations. The Gulf of Tonkin was a false flag operation. Operation Northwoods would have been the biggest false flag operation that was openly true, in the history of humanity. They would have killed ungodly amounts of innocent civilians, hijacked planes, crashed them into buildings, shut up shopping malls, released prisoners from Guantanamo Bay and armed them. They would have done crazy things just to wage war with Cuba. The Joint Chiefs of Staff in 1962 or 63 presented this to JFK, and he said, fuck no. Thank you, Freedom of Information Act. But this is my point. There's a lineage of the U.S. The U.S. government staged false flag UFO abductions in the 80s in Latin America. They literally faked UFO abductions. There is no doubt in my mind that there is zero limit, zero boundary, zero anything that's off bounds for some of these rogue elements of our government. There's not a shred of doubt in my mind about that. You don't have to be a conspiracy guy or person to think about that, to realize that. I just named 3 proven things. They're all very true. I can name another one. The Patriot Act with the stellar wind, with the NSA. Okay, COINTELPRO, the FBI. So now I'm naming the FBI, the CIA, NSA. So how many independent agencies of our federal government is it going to take to prove to the American people that we don't have the best interest at heart for our own people or the people of the world? We repeatedly, our governmental body in charge, repeatedly does outlandish things with zero recourse or zero repercussions. So is it? I'm seriously asking now, from an all honest question. This is not a hyperbolic. This is dead serious. Do you think the U.S. government could or would ever stage a UFO invasion, war, or landing? Please comment below. I sincerely want to know. Please elaborate on why you believe they would or why they wouldn't do it. But I want to know, because I don't know if this is just me being outlandish here, if this is me just being stuck in my ways of thinking everything isn't how it seems it is. Because again, I'm basing all of my belief system here off of the fact that I've seen them do these things time and time again with no actual recourse, with no compassion, with nothing. These elements will stop at nothing to do what they want to do. That's a fact. That's a fact. Tuskegee, Alabama, they gave syphilis to thousands of innocent men for no reason. MK Ultra, they tortured repeatedly ungodly amounts of people with psychological torture. I mean, man, they're partially responsible for the creation of freaking Charles Manson, the Unabomber, Whitey Bulger. I mean, what? So what makes you think if they'll do all these crazy things? Again, I'm not talking about 9/11. I'm not talking about JFK. I'm not talking about anything like that. I could, but it's speculative. What I'm saying right now is not speculative. COINTELPRO, MK Ultra, Operation Northwoods, Gulf of Tonkin, Stellar Wind. What else? Fake UFO abductions. These aren't freaking opinions. These are matters of fact. These are legitimate things. Tuskegee, Alabama. I don't think I've mentioned that one when I was recapping. There's so many things that this tyrannical regime of psychopaths have repeatedly done to lose all credibility in my mind. And make sure you realize I'm not pinpointing one branch of the government. I'm not pinpointing. No, I'm saying all of it. It all sucks. Because everything I just listed were different elements, rogue elements of these departments. So that's what I think is happening. I think that's what's happening here. I think it's just an open disclosure. Basically, and I even hate that word because it's not really a disclosure. They didn't really. What did they tell us? You know, they told us there was like 400 unexplained sightings. Okay, cool. They told us that Maelstrom Air Force Base, basically 10 intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of nuclear technology, all got deactivated simultaneously, all literally at the same exact time, while a UFO was present in the sky. Okay, interesting. That's crazy. That's fucking crazy that you're going to openly say that happened and you have no idea of who or how it happened. Bye. But you're literally going to say they're a national threat. Are they a national threat? Is it a national threat when they have the capability to shut down an arsenal at will? Is that even a threat at that point? No. That is them showing their wings. That's them showing to you psychopaths that if this is the course of action you choose to engage in, you will not win. It's not possible. Is it coincidental that all these UFO sightings, all of these things happen primarily, especially for the government's interest, primarily happen right after the D-Day demolitions, droppings of the bombs? Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. I think it's a fact that these beings, whatever beings they are, and I'm not saying what, I'm not going to get speculative just yet. I don't know what beings they are. And disclaimer, I also believe a lot of UFOs that we see in the sky and that are reported, I don't even know if they're actually extraterrestrial of origin. I think there's a big subsect, if not primarily, like the macro of the opposed to the latter, that are man-made crafts. If I had a guess, if you believe Bob Lazar's story of Nellis Air Force Base, they had propulsion technology back in the 80s. They had crafts. If you believe, what's it called? If you've ever seen images of the Nazi Nazi scientists gathered around UFOs that they had created, supposedly with technology that was not of this earth. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty crazy that we don't think that. I mean, let me start with this. Let me segue to this. How much money is spent in black budget operations in the U.S. every year? Because I'm gonna Google it. Let's take a guess here. I'm gonna say $1 trillion every year. I feel like that's generous. Let's see. How much money is spent on black budget operations annually? Okay, the black budget is mostly classified because of security reasons. Oh, okay, of course it is. The black budget can be complicated to calculate. That's interesting. Our tax money is complicated to figure out where it's going. That's interesting. Okay, but in the United States, it has been estimated to be over $50 billion a year. Okay, taking up approximately 7% of the U.S. $700 billion defense budget. First of all, $700 billion for defense is utterly insane. Utterly insane. We spend more money on killing people than we do on helping and growing and educating and healing. It's crazy. It's crazy. So 7%. What, this is roughly. They even said they don't know. I was way off with that $1 trillion thing. I spit out the dark. You tell me 7% of it, all the annual budget every year is spent on things that we don't know about. Okay. Interesting. I know for a fact some of that goes to UFO research. It has to. It absolutely has to. Do you know how I know that? I can tell you very clearly how I know that. Because the DOD has a UFO task force that they've had for many years now. That was admitted to in the congressional hearing. It wasn't public knowledge. So it was a black budget operation. It's funny how that works. It's funny how that fucking works, guys. It's really funny how if we go out and talk about UFOs or alien life, you're looked at like you're a crackpot. But your own fucking government is spending ungodly amounts of money every year looking into said topics. That's crazy. That's something. That's something. So before I read this, I'm just going to go over this little article here. It's from Axios, and it's just kind of giving Spark Note bullet points of kind of the overall topics of the congressional hearing. I feel like that's a good way to kind of approach this for the rest of the video. But basically, my point is standing that I think a majority of UFO sightings are not UFO related. I think a lot of them are probably man-made. And even the ones that are UFO type of things, I don't think they're sentient beings controlling the ships. I just don't. I don't see why life forms that are that advanced would even bother flying ungodly amounts of distances that we couldn't even fathom just to say hello and just observe. I don't see why that would make sense for any being to do that. Then again, I'm not a being that's probably evolved for millions of years. It's probably been I not millions of years. I mean, like, been where we are. I'm not a being that was at the stage we are 1,000,000 years ago. These things are probably tens, if not 100 million years older than us, intelligent wise. Because you have to be able to fuck with the fabric of space and time, unless it's dimensional, which I believe it is. But let's say it's not. Sorry about that. Let's say it's straight up just they're flying from one, one star cluster, whatever the fuck they call it, to another. Okay, sure. You have to fly faster than the speed of light, times like 1,000,000, to traverse that distance in a time that it would take for them to actually get here. So face value doesn't really make much sense. So I think a lot of them are man-made. I think a lot of reverse engineering shit happens, especially after, like I said, after what's the word I'm thinking of? After the dropping of the bombs in Japan, I think a lot of shit emerged from that. I think Roswell was a good example. The thing with Roswell was, the official report of local newspapers was a UFO crash, and they changed it to a weather balloon. How fucking stupid of a statement could that be? How do you misidentify a crashed fucking saucer for a weather balloon. And then if it was a weather balloon, why did they take two different freaking planes to fly the debris back to airfields in case one of them crashed? They still had some on the other, because the government took it very serious. That's why. What was Roswell, 57 or 47? I don't even have the date right. I think it's important to note that I am absolutely exhausted right now. I don't know if you can probably hear it in my voice. My brain's not working at 100% right now. I just wanted to get this video out before I forgot. And I was like getting ready to just lay down and wind down for the night. I was like, oh shit, I gotta put this video out. For sure like this, I like to do more like kind of research when I talk about these things, but like I'm just kind of spitballing here. Yeah, it is what it is. Let's get to this shit. So yeah, I think a lot of it's bullshit. I do believe in aliens, but I don't think a lot of it's man operated, if it's even extraterrestrial of origin. I think a lot's reverse engineered by other governing bodies of the world. And what else? I think that it's basically just all being disclosed in the manner it is, simply just to fucking prepare us for the realization that we're going to be going to war with extraterrestrial beings at one point. We have a space force. We have weaponized satellites right now. We have an international space station. We're really we're not even dipping our toes into space. We're like calf deep at this point. It's, again, what are we going to do up against an alien species? We can watch any alien movie you want. You can watch Signs. You can watch fucking whatever the hell that one is with Tom Cruise. I don't even know. War of the Worlds. You can watch any of these stupid Hollywood movies. That's not how it's going to happen. I'm not trying to sound like a fatalistic guy here. We're not going to stand a fucking chance against any superior race. It's not going to happen. There's no way. If it wasn't a UFO that truly shut down 10 ICBMs simultaneously, what chance do any governing bodies or militaries stand? Because I'll tell you right now, if that shit happens, if they actually truly go to war or spark conflict, I'm going to sit right in my house with my family and I'm just going to hang out with them and hope for the best that aliens decide that we're not, as a collective species, irrelevant to the universe and a lost cause, because of the simple tactics that some crazy psychopaths that we've barely even elected are running the show. I won't be part of it. I won't buy into the hype. I won't watch it on the news. I'll simply sit around with my friends and family and enjoy my last days if it is. Because what are we going to do? Do I think that's going to happen? Absolutely not. Because I don't think higher life forms that would travel this far of a distance for this long would wait until they were, back against the ropes type of thing to fucking attack. First of all, I don't think they'd attack at all. I don't see a reason for it. Why would they? What do they have to gain from killing us? If they're here for resources, why haven't they taken them already? Well, then it comes down to, okay, they're monitoring us. That's what it seems like. They seem to be interested with us for some reason. Why is that? Well, maybe because we're an experiment for them. Maybe they're God. Maybe they're our creator. Maybe they're monitoring the growth of AI. Maybe they're just interested because of the fact that we're letting off nuclear warheads and we're expanding into space. And they're probably like, oh shit, these primitive monkeys are messing around with splitting the atom. And now they can travel to space. That's not good. Just a thought. Maybe they're here to nourish our spiritual growth. That's what I like to believe. But whatever. With that being said, let's delve into this shit. Again, please let me know what you guys think about this too. All right. Let's see. The report concluded that UAPs could pose a threat to national security, but found no evidence of aliens from the incidents. All right. Well, I think that's a clear thing. Well, we already went over in great depth my opinion toward them being a national security threat. I think it's interesting that they did differentiate the fact that UAPs are separate from aliens. I think that's very important because, that's them saying they don't have sign of intelligent life, but they have sign that they don't know what the fuck's going on. I think a lot of people kind of intertwine those two things. Kind of like I said, I think a lot of this could just be man-made technology. I wonder if they have that same thought process. I don't think they discuss that openly, even though they promise transparency, which I can get to later. I think is bullshit, because I don't think they'd want their adversaries, Iran, China, Russia, shit like that, to recognize the fact that they knew what they were doing in that sense. And also, if it is an adversarial country that possesses these technologies and the capabilities to do what these things are doing, that's not good. That's not good at all, because that's immaculate technology right there. The last hearings on UFOs was in 1966 when the Republican House Minority Leader Gerald Ford held 2 hearings regarding reported sightings in Michigan and other parts of the country earlier that year. Yeah, if I remember correctly, Gerald Ford was like the senator at the time, right? Oh, he was the House Minority Leader at that time. I thought it was Gerald Ford the one who was like the senator of his state, and they had a bunch of UFO sightings, and like the people in his state were like, bullshit, so we led it to D.C. I think that was him. He like led the campaign to make it like an official topic to be discussed, because the people of his state, it was coming for re-election, the people of his state were on his ass about it. Shit like that. I could be mistaken, but I think that was Gerald Ford. One now resolved unidentified aerial phenomena video captured by the Navy was explained as lens aberrations, and that the aperture, I can't spell for shit, aperture shape of the night vision goggles used to record the footage. So yeah, that was an example where they pulled up a clip, and it was basically just them disproving one of the UFO sightings, which seemed very ridiculous and not necessary to me, considering there's an ungodly amounts of reports that they could have actually pointed to opposed to that were logistical and concrete. Deputy Director of Naval Intelligence Scott Bray played another video of a military flyby with a UAP that is yet to be explained. Okay, what kind of article is this? What kind of shit is this talking about here? These are just like weird bullet points. Resolved reports fall into 5 explanatory categories: airborne clutter, natural atmospheric phenomena, U.S. Department or U.S. industry developmental programs. What the fuck does that mean? Resolved reports fall into 5 U.S. government or U.S. industry. Is this like... Wait a minute. Resolved reports fall into 5 explanatory categories. So that means these, out of all the resolved things that were proven to be, rational, one of them is U.S. government or U.S. industry developmental programs. Isn't that a bitch? Isn't that interesting? Well, that's probably Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works, Boeing, shit like that. These massive, and I'll say it again, massive private corporations that partner with the government and get ridiculous, ridiculous contracts to build these weapons of death. I got to plug in my laptop. Give me one sec, guys. Sorry. As you can see, I always come so prepared. You know this. Okay, perfect. That's really interesting to me, because that literally just, to my understanding, that literally admits that a lot of, sightings of UFOs turned out to actually just be technology or aerial objects that were made by the U.S. government or industrial U.S. partners. That is ridiculous. Oh, this next one's interesting too. Foreign adversary systems. Okay, so that's another one. So again, I'm not even like, I didn't read this over really before. I read the heading of the article, because I just quickly Googled summary points of the congressional hearing, just so I could kind of go over brief things with you. So yeah, foreign adversary systems. So there we go. They're openly admitting that a lot of UFO sightings have actually just been misidentification for foreign adversaries. So let's sum that up. Out of the UFO observations that have been disproven, 2 of the 5 categories are U.S.-made things that resemble UFOs, or foreign adversaries that resemble UFOs. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Well, I wonder where the fuck they got the technology to do such things. Bob Lazar doesn't seem so crazy now, does he? It's... Oh my God, this is almost comical, man. This is almost comical. And then the 5th classification system is other, which serves as a holding pin of difficult cases and for the possibility of surprise and potential scientific discovery, Bray said. Okay, so that's interesting. There have been 11 near misses between unknown objects and U.S. military assets. That's a big one. That's very important because obviously all these things are important, but when it's coming to the point where, you know, soldiers and Air Force men and whatnot are actually put in harm's way by interacting with these things, that kicks it up a notch, because it kind of adds more credence to the fact that something's truly going on. You know, you think about there's recorded cases of pilots having dogfights with UFOs back in the day, you know, World War II, especially the World Wars. There was a lot of dogfight cases documented there. Battle of Los Angeles, you know, what was the Battle of Los Angeles? They had dogfights. I definitely know over the DC UFO sightings back in the way back, that there was dogfights over that. So that's interesting. U.S. service members have recorded no collisions or direct communications with UAPs, Bray said. That would be fucking crazy if there was actual recording of a Navy or Air Force pilot having a direct communication with one of these beings. You know, even if it was on the same comm frequency, opposed to even like actual verbal communication. If it was just actually like them tapping in the same frequency, that would be fucking nuts. They also have not found wreckage material that isn't consistent with being of terrestrial origin, he added. That's interesting. So that's interesting because that's actually them admitting that they have found wreckage material. Absolutely. Because he specifies that isn't consistent with being of terrestrial origin, meaning it's not of planet Earth. So they have found wreckages. He's not denying that they found wreckages. Ladies and gentlemen, we got them. I mean, this is fucking crazy, man. This is why we live in a simulation, bro. Like, shit like this is just so outlandishly ridiculous, bro. They're openly admitting the fact that they have had this. This is so crazy. First of all, fuck this guy Bray. First of all, for being so cryptic with his freaking explanations here and his answers. That's interesting, you know. So I don't know how to really go about that, because I was always under the assumption, the notion that, you know, if there was UFOs, which I believe there are, that's why we're having this conversation. I feel like, you know, the majority of their materials, you know, intertwined with the crafts wouldn't be of, you know, terrestrial origin. So that's interesting. So maybe either the crafts that they have found were reverse engineered ships from adversaries. You know, they found wreckages and then they fucked around and recreated it with resources, materials found here on Earth, and, you know, for whatever reason they crashed or whatnot, so they recovered those. That's a very big possibility that I don't think a lot of people really think about. Is even Roswell. Who's to say Roswell wasn't just like an adversarial country of something? Not even adversarial. Could have been a friendly country, you know? It could have been any country in general. I keep saying adversarial like we're in some fucking universal war here. Sorry for the fear mongering I'm projecting. Like, I don't mean it as like a fearful way. It's just I think it's like, oh, these headphones suck on my glasses. I'm gonna take these glasses off for a second. Oh, my ears are being like pinched by the I don't even know what the fuck they're called. The things on my glasses. So yeah, it's very interesting. I think like a lot of the shit could just be like, yeah, other countries recreating, if not the U.S., recreating these wrecks that they found in the past, or archaeological sites where they found things, whatnot, shit like that. Or if you want to get real crazy, the ships that they've been given by other extraterrestrials. That's a different one for you, which I think is plausible too. That you know, there could be sects of intelligent lives out there that may have nefarious purposes and motives, so they could be interacting with certain elements of, you know, the world. Obviously, that's more outlandish than what I've probably said prior to this, but who knows? So that's interesting. The House Intelligence Committee's Subcommittee of Counterterrorism, Counterintelligence, and I don't even know what the hell that says. The House Intelligence Committee's Subcommittee on Counterterrorism, Counterintelligence, and whatever interviewed Defense Department officials about DoD's work looking into the UAP phenomena. The Airborne Object Identification and Management Synchronization Group, that's a fucking mouthful, stands for, it's shortened by AOIMSG, was established in November 21 as the successor of the DoD's Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, which was created in response to reports from Navy pilots and other service members about encounters with UAPs over several years. Interesting. So as of 2021, they created a whole new branch of the DoD to look into UFO phenomenon. Okay. That's at face value. It's like, oh, it's a new thing. Well, it's not, because they continue to say that they replaced the previous group that they had established with the new one. That's funny how that works. It's also funny how they don't give a year as to. Oh, let's click on the link here. Let's see if it brings me to the year this was established. Because I'm curious to know if this actually tells me the year this shit was made, and it doesn't. Yeah, that's funny. I'm clicking on the exact link it gave me for that group, and in the article it doesn't mention the year that was formed. Yeah. Well, their mission. Okay, here's what they were saying. This is the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force that was now the predecessor. They're saying the mission of the task force is to detect, analyze, and catalog UAPs that could potentially pose a threat to U.S. national security, the DoD said. Again, there's no open discussion of how can we communicate with these beings for a beneficial way. There's none of that. Where are these people speaking out at these positions of power, saying how can we interact with these beings in a benevolent way, where maybe we can have a beneficial relationship, even a parasitical one maybe? We're not even thinking about the approach of we can just leech off of them and hope they're kind enough to do it. We're going straight to the fact that they're gonna fucking be a threat. I thought global warming was the biggest thing in the world. I thought climate change was it. I thought we needed to switch over to electricity right away. No more fossil fuels. I thought we needed to end world hunger. I thought we needed to... Why not ask? Why not communicate with these things? Why not approach this in an actual way? This is just showing the adversarial side of humanity. Guys, we're letting these people speak and act how I personally, and I hope a lot of other people, wouldn't want to be represented. This is fucking crazy. This is fucking crazy. This is fucking crazy. Alright, where the fuck was I? Sorry, I'm going back to the original page I was on. Okay, yeah. So basically the AOI MSG, whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean, the abbreviation for that mouthful of a group, is the successor to the UAP task force, basically. So when we have I haven't looked it up. I don't want to Google. I don't feel like doing it because then I'm just gonna prolong this conversation to avenues it doesn't need to take. But yeah, it's no indication of when this was even formed, so whatever. Some videos from the reports were released by the Pentagon in 2021, including recorded footage from infrared cameras of fighter jets. I think the 2021 they're talking about is that Commander Fravor, the one in California, or was that prior to that? Was that the Tic Tac? I know there was a big dump, right? Wasn't there a huge Freedom of Information dump from the Pentagon on UFOs in 2020? Or was that... I think so. Yeah, I think that was right when Trump was leaving. He, slipped it in something. Or not even him. Someone slipped it in, one of the COVID relief things, I think, at all things. Which they always do. They always fucking do. Just like they slipped, 19 point something trillion dollars to governmental bodies inside of that $40 billion relief bill for Ukraine. Just so you guys know, half the money from the Ukraine aid bill, if you break it down, is going to increase spending for government agencies in the U.S. Just so you know, because no one really gives a fuck about that. But it's all about, yeah, let's help Ukraine. Yeah, okay. I'm all for it. If it's actually happening the way they say it's happening, I'm all for it. I'm for the people of Ukraine, not the fucking governmental puppet bodies. And I'm definitely not for giving the government half the money we're supposed to be sending to this foreign country. I'm absolutely against that. So by nature, I'm against the Ukraine relief bill. Until they make the bill where the money actually all goes there, I'm fully against it. Just so you guys know where I stand. Please check my numbers there. I believe it was 19 of the 40 is, it was like 49% is actually going to government agencies in the U.S. So that's fun. This is fucking ridiculous. I don't know if you guys can tell. I'm sick of being enslaved by these freaking idiots, man. I am, day by day, the tolerance I have for this shit is rapidly declining. And I don't care how vocal or how outlandish I even sound anymore. I've had enough, man. I've had enough. Like, I am so fucking far on the spectrum of being against government. Like, it's actually nuts. This is a good example. I mean, I'm talking about UFOs being disclosed by the government, and I'm still bitching because it's freaking nonsense, man. That's all right. Bray and under security. I don't know if they did that right, whatever. Under Security of Defense for Intelligence and Security, Ronald Moultrie stressed that the Pentagon's primary goals with, how do I say it? AOIMSG, I don't know how to pronounce the freaking abbreviation, are to organize and synchronize raw, abnormal data collected by service members and to identify UAPs. Okay, so the whole entire reason for this group to be around is basically, it's not to listen to the average people. It's not to listen to, anything like that. It's not to investigate that. It's strictly to investigate cases they choose to investigate. That's it. Strictly for military use. That's fucking funny. That's real funny. Oh my freaking Christ. I feel like I'm such a pessimist right now, but it's just like, this is crazy, guys. This is fucking crazy. We know that our service members have encountered unidentified aerial phenomenon, and because UAPs pose potential flight safety and general security risk, we are committed to a focused effort to determine their origins. That's why you care about the origins? You only care about the origins of UFOs because it interferes with your governmental fucking bureaucratic legion of fucking militarization? That's why? That's why you care? That's why you care where aliens come from and why they're here? Because it interferes with your military operations? That's... I can't take this serious anymore. I mean, this is absolutely, utterly ridiculous. This is crazy. Since the early 2000s, we've seen an increasing number of unauthorized or unidentified aircraft or objects in military-controlled training areas, in training ranges, and other designated airspace, Ray said in his opening statement. Reports of sightings are frequent and continuing. Yeah, maybe these beings are fucking interested of why you're spending $700 billion increasingly every year on murdering people. Maybe that's why they're like, I wonder why they're doing this. You ever think of that? You ever think why they're curious? But do you actually wonder why they're reported over all these military training exercises and flights and Air Force bases and shutting down nuclear weapons? Why don't they ever shut down the electricity grid? Why don't they ever shut down streetlights? Why don't they ever shut down the internet? Why don't they ever shut down Wi-Fi? Why don't they ever shut down anything? Anything at all. Except for fucking nuclear weapons. I mean, why? Why would they? Because it's... What are we doing? We know why they're doing this shit. Because they're looking at an ever increasingly advanced species known as humans actively trying to kill each other. Probably concerned Considering we're reaching out to space. They're probably like, what the fuck are we doing? Maybe it's because we launched nuclear weapons into fucking space back in the day. Maybe it's because we dropped a plethora of bombs in our own fucking atmosphere. Maybe it's because we dropped bombs into the freaking oceans and the deserts. Maybe it's because we almost wiped a country off the face of the fucking earth. I don't know. Just a thought. Reports of sightings are frequent and continuing. I wonder why. I wonder why they're more frequent and continuing, Bray. You absolute moron. I wonder why. Maybe it's because every single year we get more and more stuck in the loop of militarization. Just maybe. My point stands. Why don't they shut down any other freaking systems? Why do they only shut down military installations? If it is alien. Because if it wasn't alien, if it was a domestic, human-run operation, they would do more than that. They drop EMPs to wipe out all internet grids. I'll tell you right now, there's nothing more devastational to this country than wiping out the electricity grid. Someone could drop a nuclear bomb on this country. It would not have the significance that a massive EMP would have on this country. If you completely wiped out all communications and the internet, this country would fucking cease to exist. All around. So why? Why don't these beings, these UAPs as you fucking call them, why don't they do any of that? Fucking idiots, man. The Pentagon attributes the frequency of sightings to increased presence of commercial drones. Hold on. I think I read that wrong. The military attributes the frequency of sightings to the increased presence of commercial drones near military sites and better sensor equipment detecting debris, such as mylar balloons in military airspace, Bray says. I'm not even going to go over that one. What are we doing? You know, on to the next. I can't get into that nonsense. The frequency could also be attributed to AOI MSG standardizing reports procedures for Navy and Air Force service members in the Pentagon, recently encouraging service members to report anything abnormal while at sea or in flight. Oh, you think? You think because you finally told the service members that they're okay and won't be ridiculed and discharged to talk about UFO sightings, that you're going to get more sightings? You think that's how that works? Because if you legalize marijuana, guess what? More people are going to smoke marijuana. What the fuck are we doing? And I'm going to tell you right now, I listened to this conversation. The whole conversation was utterly ridiculous. Please watch it. It's on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube. It's a horrible conversation. It's fucking stupid. It's dumbed down. And it's full of nonsensical rhetoric as I'm reading right now. It's so stupid. This isn't a disclosure. If you want a disclosure, you look at Dr. Stephen Greer's type of work. That's a disclosure. You look at George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell. You look at independent people who actually give a fuck about this shit. Not people who are trying to make money off military shit. What's that fucking guy's? Tom DeLonge. You know, you want to see the military side of things, you look at To the Stars Academy. You look at that shit. You look at Tom DeLonge from Blink 182. You look at that side of the shit. If you want more of this bullshit, fear-mongering, we should fear everything that ever happens ever and not actually think about what possible benefits we could have from communicating with ultra-advanced beings. You look at those guys. If you want to know what it's like to actually have a nuanced perspective of extraterrestrial beings, please look into Stephen Greer. I'm not saying he's the fucking messiah. I'm not saying he's right. Watch his documentaries. Serious, unacknowledged. C5. Look at some of these documentaries. Give them a look. See what you think. I'm not speaking new information. And unacknowledged and serious, you'll hear Stephen Gray say the same thing about militarization of weaponizing space, doing these things. This isn't new information. Nothing I've said right now or ever will say is new information. So if you watch me for new information, new ideas, you're probably never going to hear it, because I guarantee you everything I've ever said has been said in some form or another. I don't believe in free thought. Original thought, I'm saying. So I'm sure that's going to happen. What I'm saying is this is fucking crazy, okay? This is absolutely utter bullshit, okay? Please, for the love of God, if there's one single thing you listen to me about what I said today, please just think for yourself. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to this bullshit government agencies. Listen to what you truly believe. Follow the avenue, follow the roads, follow it the whole time and see where it leads you. That's all I ask. In everything. This isn't about UFOs. This is about everything. Please, just be the wire's getting away. Please just be a competent human being with original belief systems, okay? Think for yourself. Come to your own conclusions. Go watch the congressional hearing. And then right after, go. You know what? Better yet. Go watch Unacknowledged. Go watch Sirius. Go watch something like that, okay? Go watch one of those documentaries. Then watch the congressional hearings with that freshly in your mind, with both perspectives. Recognize the fact that every major president since Bill Clinton has been disclosed on UFO phenomena. Realize that 7% of the annual spending for military is being spent in black budget operations. Realize that they openly admitted that they have recovered craft that were either their own or from other countries that resembled UFOs. Do it up. Think for yourself. Listen, I don't mean to seem doom and gloom. I really don't, because I'm not a doom and gloom type of guy. I can't help but call it bullshit when I see it. You know, I call it how I see it. You know, if there's one, you don't have to like me, you don't have to listen to me, you don't have to respect me, you don't have to love me, nothing. If there's one thing you can attribute to me, please just, I hope you guys understand that the only thing you'll ever get from me is authenticity. I'm not going to censor my opinions or beliefs on anything simply due to the fact that it could hurt someone's feelings or contradict their belief system. I don't give a fuck. Okay, I don't. If I hurt your feelings with something I say, that sucks. Talk to me about it. Let's figure it out. But I'm not going to censor myself in real time or my opinion on any topic simply due to the fact that I think it's because it's going to make someone's day, like, you know, more compassionate. I believe in authenticity. That's simple as that. I love people. I love myself. I'm very compassionate. I don't want to see anybody hurt. But I'm not going to censor my opinion or belief on anything just to fit into your mold of standards. It's not how I do things. So when I rant about all these things in a very pessimistic mindset, it's not me saying like it's impossible for this to be authentic. It's simply me saying this: if it smells like shit, if it looks like shit, if it feels like shit, if you saw a dog do it, it's probably fucking shit. With that being said, thank you all for watching. As always, without people watching, this is literally just me sitting here in front of a camera rambling to myself. I know if you guys look down probably like my YouTube channel of like viewership, you know, some people might be like, oh, 10 views, 30 views, 40, whatever it is. If it's one view, I'm sincerely appreciative of that. Because that means people are actually kind of in some level vibing with what I'm saying or the conversations I'm having and the guests I'm having on, whatever it is. So thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for that. There's a lot of things I could thank you all for. And you know what? If you don't want to listen to me, thank you. Please have a good night. Thank you for watching. But I'm gonna go on a thanks spree real quick to wrap this up. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for being alive. Thank you for staying alive. Thank you for caring enough to be alive. Thank you for benefiting the lives of anybody around you. Thank you for benefiting the lives of your life of yourself. Thank you for caring enough to be the person you are. Thank you for surviving all the shit you've been through. Thank you for never giving up despite the shit you've been through. Thank you for persevering. Thank you for just being who the fuck you are. Thank you. Every single one of you, sincerely, thank you. Thank you. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, white, purple. I don't give a fuck what you are. If you're an alien, if you're gay, straight, trans, I don't care. Anything. Sincerely, just thank you for being an amazing human being. Thank you. Have you fucked up before? Well, that sucks. Well, guess what? You're human, so thanks for that, too. You know, you tell people they're perfect, how proud you are of them. They automatically think about the things they've done wrong. Stop. Stop. Have you murdered or raped somebody? If the answer is no, stop. And if you have, you know what? I'm not the person to give advice about that too, but I don't know where the fuck I was going with that one. It's pretty bad. Listen, thank you. Thank you all for listening. I've run out of shit to say. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, just sincerely thank you. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, week, month, year, life. And yeah, one love. Thank you. Take care.